Okay, so it's 6:03. Oh, before we start, I need to ask someone to take notes this evening because we are without Bonnie. Do I have a volunteer? Thank you. Thanks, Jason. Okay, so we'll start with call to order and came to pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have a motion to accept the agenda, please.
So moved. Second.
Hello, Casey.
Good evening, sorry I'm late.
It's okay?
Papers up there.
Here are.
It's just the agenda.
I think that's all there is.
Okay.
Well, I lied. Oh, it's on the back, no?
Okay, so we have a motion to accept the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections? Changes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of August 16th?
Moved.
Thank you, Jason. Second. Thank you, Fran. Any additions, corrections, changes to the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Correspondence, I did have correspondence from Park and Rec, and I have put it in the new business section of the agenda, so we'll address it there. We have a report that the tax collector sent us. She said she would not be with us this evening. And it looks like everything is tracking up pretty much as it has in prior years. So any thoughts or comments on the report?
No, it looked fine to me. I mean, no surprises.
No, right? Mm-mm. No. Okay. So the Board of Education is not with us this evening. I received a nice email from Scott saying he would not be able to join us. So that takes us to the Board of Selectmen.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
We can brief. Streetscape Phase 1 we're pretty much closed out, done.
Talk louder.
We are pretty much closed out on Phase 1 of Streetscape. And, right, we have to have a ribbon cutting with the affordable housing. And that's in the works already. I'm not sure when that's going to be because the commissioner, she's got a busy schedule. But Phase 2 is moving and shaking. I think we're in good shape. We had the third informational session in the form of a site walk a couple of weeks ago with Lane Street and Maple Street property owners, just to have SLRB on site to measure things for folks like, this is how far from the center line, this is what this will look like when there's a sidewalk on the street, talk about some different details. There's, it's a pretty detailed maneuver getting up and over the railroad tracks there on Maple Street Extension. So it was great to be able to have the engineer right there on scene to talk about what there's going to have to be a retaining wall and what that's going to look like and how far it's going to come up. And, rather than just looking at it on a set of plans, it was nice to have that sort of in real life feature to it. They're also working on a couple of, what do you call those? When they give you the view of what the sidewalk will look like on, they're going to do Lane Street. Say that again. 3D. So people will have a better idea of what that is going to look like, just so for visual purposes. Can be hard to visualize, especially if there's no, like on Lane Street, there's no sidewalk there now. So there are cars parked on the side of the street and, being able to, sort of envision that. So that's going to be helpful. So those are I think, coming very soon. So we continue to move through, likely looking at late summer, fall of '24 for likely when the project will happen. It's, you know, still a lot going back and forth with the DOT because it's 341 and still another piece of Route 7. So whenever you have the state highway involved, it's always an adventure.
Jean, the Lane Street residents, are they pretty okay with what's happening? Because that's a real big change for them.
Yeah, so, you know, it's been sort of a mixed group. There are some who, I think there's been a gap in understanding of property lines and people are used to, this is my grass, so it, you know, it's sort of, over time, just feels like your property and feels like your front yard. I lived through that when we put up our fence on Route 7. So I think that sidewalk helped a lot. There still were some folks who were not really still in favor of having sidewalk on Lane Street, but we tried to explain to them the concept of the overall project, so the big project of creating better pedestrian connectivity throughout the entire village, not just Route 7. And that, you know, when you look at a road, and this was a great learning point from the DOT back during phase 1 when we were in construction. When you look at the roads are intended, designed, and engineered for vehicles to travel over. Sidewalks are designed, intended, engineered, and built for pedestrians to travel over. And the two aren't ever meant to be mixed. People aren't supposed to walk in the road, cars aren't supposed to drive on the sidewalks. It's a very simple concept. And that was sort of how we started off. When you look up Lane Street, and we were down at the Epstein end of Lane Street, there's really nowhere for pedestrians to safely or properly walk. And walking in the street is not the solution. Walking in the street is not the way that we're supposed to, that pedestrians are supposed to traverse around in a village. So I think that helped some. There was a gap in how the project was approved many years ago through the resolution to fund the project and to have the project go forward. So we were still, you know, we tried explaining that more. But I think we had some good successes just sort of bridging the gap. So it's understanding.
And maybe the rendering will help as well.
I hope so, yeah. So that's Streetscape Phase 2. We did some more with town hall preparedness. With the help of Bonnie Gonzalez, we did a stop the bleed training for about 22 employees with some election workers. And I think that was successful. It was good to be able to sort of have a little bit of hands-on, and everybody, you know, got to use a tourniquet and we talked about wound packing and the basics of stop the bleed. So where we're hopefully going to end up with that is Rick is going to we're going to get a quote for stop the bleed kits and what's called an IFAC, an individual first aid kit, which is a tourniquet and other wound dressing for each one of the DPW trucks, because they have, you know, obviously they have risks that they encounter every day doing what they do. So that would give them much better, you know, because right now they don't have much, so better first aid for those big bleeding situations. And there was just something over the weekend, I think up in Cornwall, there was a call for a tree fell on someone's arm and they were having uncontrolled bleeding and they were getting ready to apply tourniquet. So, and that stuff is all very time sensitive. So we're gonna get a quote for that and a quote for a larger, what's called a community pack for, to have in town hall, to be co-located where the AED is, down on the first floor, which is a standard of preparedness for public spaces. So we're working on those. We also need to replace the AEDs that we currently have, so we're looking to do that. Cemetery Association, there's a number of ordinances that are pretty much ready to go or almost ready to go. So the Cemetery Association is in pretty final draft form. That's going to go to the Board of Selectmen to hopefully move to a town meeting at some point, but move next week at the Board of Selectmen's meeting. The tax abatement ordinance update, there's an inland wetlands for some fees, penalties, that's ready to go. There's a couple more, and hopefully we can, I'm hopefully optimistic. I'm not as optimistic as I was a month ago, but it would be great to just have one where we can get everything, moved through all at the same time. And so we received money from these multiple opioid settlement funds. And we've gotten together with, I think, 10 or 11 other COG towns and pooled our money together. And we're looking at ways that we could spend that money. And it looks like we're going to be spending some of it on harm reduction supplies. And we're doing a rollout for EMS so that there's a new statewide protocol so that they can they can leave a Narcan kit with a family member if we're transporting somebody who we're transporting for a suspected overdose, that they can leave that kit with the family, and it has information from Greenwoods. It's been a really great collaboration with Greenwoods, McCall Center, Torrington Area Health Department, the COG, and the towns to put these kits together.
How much money are we talking about?
So altogether, it's, I think, about $55,000 among the multiple towns.
Okay, thank you.
So we met the other day to talk about the kits and how it would get rolled out and training that needs to be done. So that's that'll get rolled out in the next couple of months.
Okay.
And just doing, I think I have an app somewhere on my phone. I think I have 34 days.
Question for you.
Christmas countdown.
The new cell tower that went up, Richards Road,
Yes.
do you know what providers are on that cell tower?
Right now, AT&T is on there, and Verizon is approved by the siting council to put an antenna up, but I have not heard that it's up.
Okay.
I have reached out to our Verizon contact, and they haven't been able to get any real straight answer as to why. I mean, literally the approval, which is just sort of a tacit approval, was, I want to say June, July. It should have been up by now.
Yeah,
for sure.
okay, all right, well, thank you.
It's coming. for
Thank
sure.
you. Yeah, it's going to China first, on a slow boat, so.
And just so everybody's aware, there has been a very notable uptick in cybersecurity and emergency management security bulletins that we've been getting. Secondary to what's going on in the Middle East and just in general, what's going on in the whole world is from a cybersecurity standpoint. Friday is, I think this is their 5th. I've been, every year that I've been here in office, the National Guard runs a statewide exercise called Cyber Nutmeg. And so we're going to be gathering over at CCSU all day Friday from about 8 o'clock in the morning to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And we'll go over sort of the latest and worstest when it comes to cybersecurity threats. And then in the afternoon, the National Guard actually has a ransomware piece of ransomware code, an attack that they have captured in a sandbox, and they deployed that for the CEOs and emergency management and IT folks to walk through a tabletop exercise. And it's really interesting to just have everybody sit in a room and sort of talk about that real world kind of cybersecurity stuff. And then on Saturday, all towns were pretty much required to play in the governor's statewide emergency preparedness initiative, which is a full tabletop exercise that this year it involved a train, for us, it involved a train derailment and walked through different scenarios of response, preparedness, response, and recovery. So that was about 4 or 5 hours on Saturday, and then doing a little bit of wrap up today.
Well, thank you. Barbara, do you have a report for us?
Thank you. You look at my fingers, I apologize. So dry in here, we need a bit of
Cookies and coffee.
coffee, cookies, a heater. All right. This is my usual report. The top of the report gives you last month and the month before, the number of transactions and the dollar value associated with those transactions. The middle of the report is the actual versus budget so far this year. And the bottom is some notes on the actual versus budget. So you can see, as Debbie pointed out, property taxes collection is grand, considering we're only a quarter of the way through the year. We've collected more than half the property taxes. The interest on delinquent taxes is also banner at this point. I expect that to exceed its budgeted amount by the end of the year. Transfer station fees, with the new program that's been rolled out for the recycling of food waste and reduction of fees, really hasn't impacted the revenue stream very much. We're at 77% already, and we usually collect a bit more during the year from the permits, but we also collect quite a bit more from other recycling metals, textiles, electronics, that type of thing. To date, the town clerk has not submitted the September remittance to my office yet. I have an agreement with her that it needs to be received by my office by the 10th. So just reporting that. There are 2 lines that already are sticking out on the expenditure side of the budget. The paramedic line is over budget. We budgeted $135,380. The expenditure came in at $154,000. I did touch base with Jean on this, and she may be able to shed some light on that.
I'm gonna fall squarely on my sword. In January, the six remaining towns have been working with an Excel workbook, and we got sent a new workbook, and we're asked to just look at certain things, and I looked at them, gave them feedback, and I did not look at the top roll-up number, and that number was a different number from the workbook that we had been working on, so that's an error on my part, and I apologize.
We'll need a budget transfer at the end of the year. There was only $10,000 in contingency, so that'll be part of it, and then we'll need $8,000 from somewhere else.
So the paramedic budget and the EMS staffing, is that through the end of September?
It's through today.
Today, okay.
So I did reach out to the EMS
I saw the email, yes.
folks over at the fire department and said, please, I need your invoices. I need to start projecting, come on. So today they sent me 5 invoices and got caught up through the end of September. It might even be October 2nd, but whatever. Based on that information, I'm projecting that there's going to be a $96,000 shortfall at the end of this year based on that trending, which is sort of what we had discussed during budget time. And then, as Jean pointed out earlier, the cemetery is in talks with the town to relinquish their duties and have the town take over those duties. Within this current budget, there is a $44,000 appropriation to the cemeteries that has not been released. That'll probably stay within our own budget. And I would assume maybe by springtime that'll be done and we'll be managing that. Those funds will go towards whatever expenditure there is there. I did receive the final grant of the $500,000 on Streetscape 1, so all the grants have been received. So that's pretty exciting. So the backside is the capital as we stand today. And I know that in discussions last year, your board wanted to see the capital balances a little more often, so I'm going to try to do them a little more often. There are a couple things I'd like to point out on this report, and they're in orange, so it helps you orient to them. The first one is on line number 7, Bulls Bridge Rehab. There's actually a reduction in the expenditures. And what happens is when a contract is awarded, I book the entire contract because we're on accrual basis. Then as the project continues, there may be modifications made. So in this case, it was a modification in our benefit. So the price was reduced by $22,000. There is a state grant that we have that will offset that negative 749, but the work isn't complete yet, and I haven't been in touch with the state yet to start getting reimbursements on that, but it should cover that entire 749.
Great.
I think it's 738 is our grant. The next line I want to point out is line 22. We have a new fund, Land Acquisition Fund. We ended up with this by virtue of state statute because pursuant to 3.8.6 of our own subdivision regulations, they incorporated language from Connecticut General Statute 8-25B to collect fees in lieu of open space when they approve subdivisions. This is the first time they've done it. So, and I already verified this with the auditor, by virtue of them collecting the fee, the fund is created. That's it. Based on the language in 8-25B, these funds are restricted to preserving open space or acquiring land for open space or recreational agricultural purposes only. That's all these funds can be used for. And then I will draw your eye down to line number 31, Streetscape Phase 1, and this is the same situation as line 7 on Bulls Bridge. The project, for all intents and purposes, is complete, and there were 105,000 plus in expenditures that were part of the original contract that we didn't utilize. And one of the things that comes to mind immediately was traffic control was higher than we expected. I think their contingency budget was higher than we utilized. So even though there were 8 change orders, we still ended up coming in under budget on that project. So if you follow line 31 all the way to the right, oh, and my numbering on the left isn't the same as my numbering on the right, gotta fix that. You can see that right now, the streetscape has utilized $1,158,464 and change. And we had a discussion earlier in the year, the calendar year, about utilizing undesignated general fund money to pay that back to the capital fund. When the auditor happened to be at one of your meetings over the early or late spring, I had a discussion with him and he wanted a different resolution passed at a town meeting to facilitate that. So in discussion with bond counsel, there will be another resolution that's going to come before you that will end up going back to a town meeting, well, selectmen then town meeting, to facilitate the allowance of us utilizing
So
undesignated
a
general
special
fund.
town meeting?
Whenever the next town meeting is. It's just a housekeeping thing. They're getting more stringent with these motions and them being precise. And you'll see that coming down the pike as well with the Board of Ed project.
So that could be done, what we were just talking about at the January meeting.
Yeah, whatever the next town meeting is, we just have to have that.
So this land acquisition fund is only usable for open land? Like the town couldn't purchase land for affordable housing?
That's correct. Well, it can be used for preserving open space or acquiring land for open space or recreation or agricultural purposes. So we can't go buy it and put a town building on it and use it for offices or anything like that. And no, we cannot use it for affordable
We can do
housing.
park and recs.
Excuse me?
We can do
Recreation.
park and recs.
Yeah.
But presumably it's the selectmen who control that fund.
I believe it goes to the exact same process. The selectmen would approve some sort of expenditure, then we would review, and the taxpayers would approve the expenditure.
Can that money, for instance, we need to think about a genuine land acquisition fund. But also, I think if they're talking about doing something with Emery Park, it sounds like that might be something they could also use it to apply towards, right? Okay.
It seems like that is the case, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, there's so many needs that this town's gonna face in terms of
Right.
expansion of municipal buildings. Our desperate need for any sort of affordable housing. I think like it would be well for us to like explore opening a land acquisition.
Right.
That's not just regulated. to-
There are two different statutes that govern land acquisition funds. This is one, and then there's another one that's 7 dash something. And that one allows for affordable housing.
Okay.
So there's two different, but this particular one that they utilize to write these regulations based on can only be used for those purposes.
Even though that's coming from subdivisions, right?
Correct.
So subdivision money can't be used for affordable housing, which is a little bit squirrely.
That's the way it is. What else did I have for you? So normally I try to give you a building inspector report, but I didn't want to do too much paper. The bottom line is the building permits issued, the construction value compared to last year is up about $313,000, and we've issued 20 less permits for the same period of time.
Wow.
It's really early in the year. A lot happens in the spring. And I have taken the liberty of creating a very preliminary budget calendar schedule. There's a lot of blanks on it, but I wanted to give you an idea of where I am at this point. My goal is to get capital project request packets out this Friday. Ask for them back by November 10 and get a preliminary capital plan, 5-year capital plan to both the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance by November 17. December 1, budget packets will go out to all the departments and organizations. And then my plan is to have all of that information back and compiled as soon as the holiday is over and get a preliminary budget to the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance in the first week of January. Just so that everybody has lots of time. I do think there's going to be a lot of pressure on the budget this year. We've already heard from Region that the Kent share for last year was down $100,000 plus minus. Well, now it's going up $100,000 plus minus. Not kidding.
So they took the money from last year, however, right?
yeah.
Only to then whack us.
It's per student. It depends on how many students are
Yeah.
paying and how many students aren't.
But that's going to put some pressure on the budget without us
Doing
having
anything,
to do anything.
not to mention the union
They
contractors.
did, they took money from,
Yeah.
right, I love that. It's,
And the EMS funding, especially, a half button issue, I think, as well, again this year. And capital.
do we have, by the way, I'm sorry, go ahead, Casey.
What's the date as to when the new selectmen take office?
November 20 or 21.
When?
November 20 or 21, I don't know.
Okay.
One of those.
And on the regional thing, is there a mechanism for the regional board or whatever it is to take input from the towns, like the fact that if they're gonna pick their pockets one year and then come back the next year and hit us with, an increase?
Well,
I would like to weigh in on that
like
practice.
Stephen just said, well, there's two things. Yes, they do have a mechanism to give input. They have a budget hearing that you can go to.
Right.
And they encourage everybody and nobody ever goes. So that would be important.
Right.
But to point out Tegan's point, some of it is out of everybody's control because it is driven by the number of students.
Right, sure.
But at the end of the year,
So even if our student population stays the same and everybody else's drops, all of a sudden we have a larger share.
But my question is, they had a surplus last year that they then decided to use for other purposes than.
That was
Operating
the year
costs.
before.
Right, but I'm saying it's the same issue, which is that if they are booking surpluses as opposed to refunding it to the towns, and then the next year, the year after, they're raising it on us, it would be in our interest, frankly, to put some pressure on them to be a little more mindful of that practice.
Well, I believe that the reason they kept their surplus last year was to fund capital, so that they didn't have to put it in their budget. So I think they're trying.
Okay.
I think they are definitely trying, but I do encourage you to follow them. It's right on their website, and go to their hearings and go to their meetings.
Also, there is a Kent representative
Right.
that is on the board, and then there's the all board
Gotcha.
chairs.
So that's what we
So
really
there
get
are
to get
two.
to our representatives.
Yes,
Right, okay.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
Which I'm guessing is Jen Duncan, I
Gotcha.
would guess.
Thanks so much.
Thanks. Yeah, that's
And
interesting.
that representative is from the Board of Ed? from-
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you, Barbara.
Thanks.
Welcome. Okay, so the capital plan guidelines, so we had a meeting on this, we had multiple meetings on this in the spring. And then it just went away.
Yeah, and so,
I
You
tried.
took good notes.
So I sent this all out to you so you could look at it. So we could hopefully say yes, and then Barbara could include it in the capital request packages that she sends out to the different groups. So,
Yeah, I mean, I went through it and I had no additional comments.
Followed what we had suggested at this meeting, so it was pretty
Yeah, we looked
good.
at it a few times.
Yeah.
Right.
okay, all right.
So do you need a motion or anything?
I think we should be formal about
So
it,
the motion
yeah.
would be to submit the guidelines
Yes.
to our financial.
Yes, yes.
I would move to do that.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Rufus. Okay. Any further discussion on it? All in favor?
Yeah.
Good. Any opposed? Okay. Pardon?
do you have any extra copy?
I will give you this one. How's that? Okay.
I mean, I,
Is that the only copy?
I'm sorry?
Is that the only copy?
Yeah, well, we've got it.
I can, Barbara, you were copied on the email that it was on.
But we've also got it, so we can just forward it on.
Yeah, just
to our
forward
emails.
It
Okay.
was on the email when I sent out the agenda, the original agenda without the Zoom
Yeah.
info.
Yeah.
So it's on there. All right, good. Okay.
I mean, I think it's very clear, but I assume if I mean, the people who receive this have questions, they should forward them to Barbara, to you and then to us if they're.
And then, we'll delve into them. Okay, so we have a request from Park and Rec. And I will read the correspondence to you that I had from him saying, I'm writing to request an agenda item. This is from Michael Perkins, who's the chair of Park and Rec. Hi Nancy, I'm writing to request an agenda item at your next regular meeting for the Park and Recs Commission regarding our current fiscal year budget. We are requesting the following. Transfer of $7,500 from fee programs budget line to hourly employees budget line. Thank you, and please let me know what else you need from the commission for this proposal. So I wrote him back and I said, and Jared was copied on these
Yeah.
emails too, and I wrote him back and I said, hi, Michael, will you or Jared be attending the Board of Finance meeting? If not, then please provide the reason rationale for this transfer request. Why are the funds available? And why are they needed in the hourly employees budget? And he said it would be here tonight and they're not.
Yeah, he's
Unless,
on-
it's you there, hey. Thank you.
No, thank you. And I guess it's common knowledge that these are in person. And I wish I was there. I guess I looked at the agenda and only saw the Zoom link. But to answer your question, at the May 31st budget meeting, the hourly employee line was reduced by 41,600. And one of the programs that we had planned for the upcoming year was a community day. And we felt that after the reduction in after the reduction in the hourly employee line, that we wouldn't have the necessary staffing for this community day. We had budgeted the 7,500 for this community day. We would definitely need that money towards the hourly employee line, which largely covers the Camp Kent and the after-school program. And so that's the general rationale.
I don't quite understand. Didn't you already have a number budgeted for part-time in your budget?
We did, and when this was reduced by the 41,600, it took us to a level that was below what we need for the Camp Kent and after-school program.
What was reduced, Barbara? Was it the hourly or was it an assistant PR person, sorry?
It was both, because what happened is they took 2 hourly positions and combined them to make 1 position. So when you eliminated the entire position, that eliminated the 2 part-time people.
And the town voted on that.
Right.
So it wasn't, because I thought that it was basically what the town had voted on was, I thought that what the town had voted on was the increase, was the staffing increase of a full-time or person. And it wasn't in place of, it was in place of, we had budgeted in the original budget before that had happened, right? 2 part-time positions, was that right?
Right, and those 2 part-time positions, and I don't have the exact numbers in front of me.
Sure.
Those 2 part-time positions added up to $31,000.
Okay.
They combined those 2 positions into 1, added enough to make it a full-time position, brought it up to 40.
Right.
You cut the whole 40. That eliminated the 2 part-time people.
But not the,
It was 41,000
Right.
plus, yeah.
That's right.
but wasn't there another line item that wasn't cut?
Yes, it was the benefits for it.
The benefits.
Right.
Right, so,
This is like 15,000.
Yeah, it's not gonna be seven, I don't think it's gonna be
It wasn't the same
75.
amount as what those 2 part-time
That's
put
right.
together.
Okay.
And again, those numbers that I threw out.
And again, what's the budget transfer? What's the number that you're talking about?
7,500.
Okay, so that comes out in the wash, basically. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Where is it coming from?
What?
From
the feeder.
So, right, because the assumption was, you're right, I mean, that what happened at the meeting was they eliminated that position which was budgeted for, but did not take into account that there were 2 part-time positions that it replaced. And I think, and I do agree that, I think that you're shaking your head.
They put all their eggs in one basket, in other words. Yeah, right.
Okay, so.
And how much is in the fee line that he's looking at?
So it's 43,250.
43,350, you said?
250, 43,250.
But that doesn't include the benefits line, correct?
I'm not looking at the budget, but I don't believe so.
Okay.
And what happened to the benefits line?
What happened, what?
To the benefits line?
I think it's still in the budget.
Because of how the vote was worded at the meeting.
It's just sitting there.
But those benefits aren't needed since there isn't a position.
Correct.
Right.
So, I guess,
Park and Rec is what's the number of the
are they
department?
taking from
From
that?
that, instead of the fees, right?
The budget here.
Why not?
Well,
When at the end of the fiscal year.
Positions.
Right. They're not. Because they don't have many people, because we took away the part-time.
Mike's not gonna be able to hear you guys if you're
Right.
not talking loud.
Okay, so it's. So you wanted to, I've got the budget here, Mike, I'm looking at, so bear with me a moment.
Sure, yeah.
So we've got fee programs.
So again, for clarification, you want to take the money from where the fees are for the hour, to the hourly line?
Yes,
Correct.
yeah, and there's $43,250 we said in that, which is what's in the budget. And then to cover the 7,500.
Right.
And what in the fee programs is not going to be done because you're having to take the 7,500 away?
Community day.
There was a community day that was gonna be planned, kind of a Kent celebration type day that we
that's
no
what-
longer will be
Will
doing
be-
because of the staffing, yeah.
I misunderstood.
I
Okay,
got
thank you.
clarification.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay. All right.
So I guess the only thing is I wouldn't mind an exhibit or something that actually showed sources and uses, for us as a board, for the fund transfer, as opposed to.
Yeah, but in the budget, it's transferring it from line 333 to line 325.
Okay.
Is it good?
Okay. Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
It's inevitable. I mean, it's right, it's kind of
Yeah.
already done, right?
Yeah.
Operational.
Yeah, well, and the after-school
Look at it.
is critical to
Yep, so it's camp.
working parents. It's
Right.
absolutely critical.
Yeah.
And it also is important to the kids academically because a lot of them get homework
Right.
help.
And you found the money.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay. So do you need a motion?
yes, we do.
Then I would move to approve the budget transfer as presented by the Park and Recs Commission.
I will second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right. Very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Come back and see us again. All right, and let's see, the meeting calendar, yes. So, here we go. So, you all had a chance to look at these dates? And I did put 2 meetings in March again, because that's when we're in high lather over the budget.
Right.
I move to table this until we know who's going to be on.
That's true.
Let the voters decide who's going to be.
Yeah, that's true.
And check their dates and also check the dates with the new first selectman, whoever she or he may be.
The other thing is that this can always be changed.
So we can-
Yeah, the town clerk was looking for us to
Yeah.
get it in, so.
So why don't we just call this preliminary and I'm
Yeah,
fine.
we can put it on we'll put it on the November agenda.
Yep.
Okay.
Just by then
But it looked fine to me.
we'll know. Yeah, I tried to avoid holidays.
February 21st may be a little difficult because it's right before my birthday.
We'll
But I'll do my
Be more
best.
nervous about right after your birthday.
We'll bring you a cupcake with a candle in it, that's that. All right, so, yeah, we'll put it on next month's agenda.
Yeah, I think, but I mean, I'm fine preliminary at this. I think this is.
Okay. All right, good. Yeah, the June meeting would have fallen on Juneteenth, and since town hall was closed that day, I thought it'd be really bad form to have the meeting. So. Okay. Very good. Comments from the public, invited guests?
Okay.
I would just ask if you could put a link to the capital plan thing you just did into the meeting minutes when they're posted?
Oh,
A link somewhere where the public can read it?
Yeah, it'll be attached to the minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Nothing? Yes? Okay.
I would just ask that, and I don't know, I'm guessing this is probably the selectmen who actually have to do this, but what you guys were talking about, the two different types of land acquisition funds. Is there any way to have them combined, or we'd have to have two separate funds?
I believe they need to be separate because you can do different things with one that you can't do with the other.
Right.
Maybe we can rename this open land.
That's pursuant to the Connecticut statute.
Yeah, the state statute says fund period payments in lieu of open space. That's what the statute says.
Right.
And the other one is called land acquisition.
I did have a quick question for Barbara. Are there other ways for funds to go into that besides the zoning?
At this point, no.
Which is, we haven't done the other.
We have to have an
Retaining with
ordinance.
acquisition fund yet, right?
Well,
Although the
There
statute
could
says
be-
we have.
currently what's happening is, this is by state statute. If you wanted to have additional funds put into this fund, again, it could still be only used for those purposes, but it would be town action. It would be, they would have to decide that 2% of the transfer fees that the town clerk collects could go in there, et cetera, et cetera. There are different ways to, they could even be an appropriation in the general fund budget.
And
There's
also,
money in there, but.
would it be possible also if, say, the largesse of some resident or
Anybody can
request
use the
could also
town
put
money.
money into that fund?
Absolutely, anybody can give the town money.
Town will always take money. It's a smile. So, all right, well, on that jolly note, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thanks, Rufus. Okay. Mine, if I don't see
Same to you.
you all.
Congratulations, breaking into new year, so.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, we're getting along nicely. All good.
The 40, I think my mother who's turned 100, she was in her 60s. They did the same thing. Still working for her, so.
Excellent, excellent. All right.
Well, good job, you. It wasn't bad. It got really, I was shocked. I was totally shocked. You would love to see it. You know, it's dramatic, but she was happy. You know, 2 people got plates taken to them, it just was hard for them to get out, so that's actually.
I'm going to be out of town in November.
It's nice. I mean, our husband does anything with us, so I was gonna have my take on a plate, but. Nice.
Maybe.
I lived at the hotel, and the hotel said,
It was lovely,
"I'm not allowed to have empty sealed weapons."
Oh, jeez.
That's unfortunate. I will conceal my weapon.
What a relief. Yes. Are
you on the border?
Right.
No,
Good.
this is in Houston.